traditions, and growing up I watched David Copperfield on TV, and this is the very first card trick I learned. So I learned this from watching David Copperfield. This is the first trick I learned. It's my favorite trick, and I haven't done it in a while, but I'm excited to do it for this homily. But I do need a volunteer, so can anybody volunteer to help me?
Cool.
How about that little boy in the striped shirt back there? Thank you. Now with any magic trick, any good card magic trick, it always begins with pick a card, any card, right? Come on up. So pick a card from the deck, any card. Now don't show me, but I want you to walk around real quick and show everybody out there what your card is, okay? And over here, walk over here and show them. Yeah, get a little closer to him. I can't see what he's doing. Are you ready? Hey, kind of hold it down, okay? So that I can see it, and then just kind of place it gently here somewhere in the deck. Anywhere in there. Okay? Now I don't want to shuffle these on the altar, so I'm going to use your hat, okay? Alright. A couple more times. You know, if you shuffle the deck 7 times, it's random. I'm not going to do that to save time, but alright, 3 times is good, right? Okay, you ready for this? This is a big deal. Remember where your card is? Yeah. Okay, ready? Is this your card? Yes. Is it? Alright, I did that trick wrong then. Hang on, pick another card. Okay, show it to them real quick. Just hold it out, hold it up. Over here. I haven't done this in a long time. Okay, you got it. Put it somewhere in the deck. Alright, give me your head. I do not have a shuffle card, but that's a good thing. Okay, that's good, right? Okay. Is this your card? No. No? Alright. Okay, hold out your hand like that. Okay, so I'm going to put this card down on your hand, and I'm going to put the next card on top. Right? Is this your card?
No.
Alright, so I'm going to put this card down. The next one on top. Third time's a charm. Is this your card?
No.
Alright, so I'm going to put this card down. Okay, so none of those 3 are your cards, right? Okay. What I want you to do is make a fist. Not real strong, not too light, like you're holding a lightning bug, kind of. Okay? A little tighter. A little tighter. A little looser. Okay. Keep your fingers together. Alright, so none of these 3 are your cards, right? Okay. Flip it over. Is that your card? My first magic trick I ever learned. I love that one. We have RCA, and starting in the fall through Easter time, we bring new people into the faith. And I love RCA because it's people that are just kind of learning about Jesus and learning about God, and their eyes are beginning to open up to Him. And every year after Christmas, we have this dinner that we do together. It's a Christmas dinner, and usually it's just food and drink. Well, one of the guys from RCA asked me, he said, "Hey, Father, can I do the entertainment for the dinner?" And I said, "Okay, yeah." You know, I didn't ask Father Montello, but I said, "Sure." And I go, "Well, what do you do?" And his name's Tony. Tony goes, "Well, I do magic." And I said, "All right, that's awesome, so let's do it, you know." So we have this dinner a couple weeks ago, and he's going to do this magic performance for us. Now, it's the first time he's ever done it. He's retired, and he's kind of like learning this new, hobby he's doing. And so he gets up there and he's nervous, right? He's shaking his hands, and you can see he's like nervous to do this. First time he's ever done it for a crowd of people. And he does all the awesome magic bits. So he's got the three cups and the 3 balls, and he's moving them around, and he's got some things he does with fire, and he's got some of the gag gifts the gag tricks that he does. It was great, you know. So he does this magical performance for everybody, and he gets done, and everybody applauds, and we all give him a round of applause, and he says, "I just want to take a moment and thank you because Every magician remembers his first performance. He never forgets it. And I just want you to know that you were my first performance. And it was beautiful because he started to get choked up and there were tears in his eyes because he was so glad that he got to celebrate his first performance as a magician with the RCIA team. So that was really just an awesome moment. I'll never forget the first time I did this card trick on one of my mission trips. So the first time I went to Africa was in 2003. I was a seminarian and I didn't know tribal language just yet, you know, so one of the things that I could do to connect with the kids was card tricks. And so this was the first time that I did a trick for a group of people with these children in Africa. Well, when I did the card trick and flipped the card over like I did just then, their eyes lit up like this. And one of the kids started screaming, "He's a wizard!" And they all started running. So I had to like get the kids and tell them, "No, I'm not a wizard, it's a trick." You know? So I showed them like how I did the card trick. And I know a magician's not supposed to reveal how he does it, but these kids thought I was crazy, you know? So I showed them how I did the trick. And well, this morning for me, this was the first time I've ever done a magic trick for the 10 o'clock Mass at St. Joseph. So thank you for being my audience. Thank you, guys. But we heard in the gospel today, Jesus, for the first time ever, performs a miracle. This was the first miracle that he performed at the wedding feast of Cana. He changed water into wine. But here's the difference, okay? It wasn't a trick. It's not a magic trick. And for Jesus, when miracles happen, when miraculous things occur, there's no explanation. There's no sleight of hands. You know, in this card trick I did today, I knew where the card was the whole time. I didn't even have to know what the card was, but I knew where it was the whole time. With Jesus, there's no sleight of hands. There's no trick. The water is really changed into wine. It's a miracle. And that was his first miracle. What's so awesome, at the very end of the gospel, you hear it end with this phrase: the disciples began to believe. Jesus performed his first miracle, and the disciples began to believe. It was the first time he did a miracle. And I have to believe he never forgot that moment, because it was his first time. And when he saw the disciples look at him, their eyes were probably wide like those little African children. When they looked at him and thought for the first time, "Oh my gosh, maybe he really is God." I have to believe he never forgot that moment. And the thing is, Jesus continues to perform miracles in our lives. And again, they're not tricks, they're miracles. They actually do happen. And the miracles, above all, are in our sacraments. So in the 7 sacraments, Jesus manifests himself. He comes to us and appears to us. In just a few moments on this altar, we will have a miracle take place. It's not a trick. It's not an illusion. These very gifts of bread and wine will be transformed into the body and blood of Christ. Now I know, that many Catholics do not believe in the real presence. So they've done surveys, and between a third and half of Catholics don't actually believe in the real presence. They believe that it's just a sign. And it used to really bother me, but not until I read today's gospel. Because the disciples, they didn't get it right away, right? So they're following Jesus, they've dropped their nets, they've given up their careers, they've given up their families, they're following him, and it's not until he does a miracle in their lives that they finally begin to believe. They finally start to realize who he is. But again, they only begin. It's not like they get him entirely, they're just beginning to believe in Jesus and believe who he is. That's what I love about RCA, is it's a process of them beginning to come to know the Lord. So I just offer you that question to reflect on. Have you ever experienced a miracle in your life? Have you ever experienced God manifest into you, become very real to you? If you haven't, he will. And really, in the Eucharist, do you believe that this bread and wine is changed into the body and blood of Christ? If you haven't never had that miracle, that epiphany where it becomes real, he will reveal himself to you. And once you do, once you realize what happens here, once you realize the great miracle that takes place, you'll never want to miss a Mass. You want to come to Mass every single Sunday. You want to come to daily Mass because you realize what happens, what takes place in this altar. And all the sacraments. So Friday night, late Friday night, I was with somebody who was dying. He's a parishioner of ours. He's 69 years old. And the family was gathered around. And after he had been anointed, I did the prayers of commendation. So hospice said he wasn't going to live much longer. So I did these prayers where you commend this person to God. And he was on morphine, so he wasn't really responding. But I could tell there were times during the prayers when I read the words of Scripture when he heard me. You could see his face move, his eyes kind of twitched. And then I invited the entire family to lay hands on his body, and we commended him to God. And I looked around that hospital room with this family gathered around their father, and I saw the tears. They experienced God in that moment. Yesterday I was hearing confessions, and someone came in, they'd been away for 20 years, and they finally kind of got the courage to come to confession. And she got all done with confession, and I laid my hands on her, and I began the words of absolution, and I saw her break down. She broke down crying. Her shoulders sank. And when I finished the words and I removed my hands, I looked at her face, and she was beaming. She was smiling. She was so joyful to be forgiven. She experienced the miracle of God. See, the truth is, for magic tricks, we're tricked. It doesn't really happen. But miracles actually do happen. And sometimes we do have to suspend our disbelief. We have to be willing to actually trust or believe that just maybe this miracle is happening. And I gotta believe that just as that magician at RCA will always remember his first act, and just as Jesus always will remember his first miracle, he will always remember that first moment when your eyes were open